राजा जी नमस्कार।
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
क्या आए नहीं? 11 बज गई, कोई लेट है क्या?
नहीं, बस सर ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं सर। गेस्ट आ चुके हैं, प्रोफेसर आदित्य जी आ चुके हैं सर। जैसे आ जाते हैं स्टार्ट।
मॉर्निंग।
गुड मॉर्निंग सर। सर प्रोफेसर आदित्य ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं।
And Saab has also joined, so we should start.
जी सर। जी मैडम।
Hello and a very good morning to everyone. Our chief guest, Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Das, AIPH University, Bhubaneswar, Chancellor of the University, Mr. Purushottam Das Pasari, Vice Chancellor of the University, Dr. Upinder Dhar, Secretary of Shri Vaishnav Vidya Trust, Mr. Kamal Narayan Jibradia, Conference Chairperson, Dr. Anand Vajavat, and all the guests and participants. On behalf of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya Indore, I extend a very warm welcome to all in the conference Avdharan 2022, organized by Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya in association with ICT Academy. The second conference, Avdharan 2022, is on sustainable computing in multidisciplinary realities. So, aim of this conference is to bring together academicians as well as industrial practitioners to share their most recent research, practical solutions and experiences, and to discuss the trends, opportunities, and challenges. With an object of encouraging the spirit of research and innovations, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya feels proud to host the conference. Before starting the ceremony, lighting a lamp spreads divine grace. With this thought, let us start the virtual lamp lighting ceremony in front of Ma Saraswati. I request audiovisual for technical team.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा शुक्लां ब्रह्मविचारसारपरमा आद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणापुस्तकधारिणीम् अभयदां जाड्यान्धकारापहां हस्ते स्फाटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदाम्।
Thank you. It's an honor for us to have with us as eminent personalities, as chief guest Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Dash, Vice Chancellor of AIPH University, Bhubaneswar, ex-Vice Chancellor, Central University of Tamil Nadu, ex-Regional Advisor, World Health Organization. To welcome our guest, I request Honorable Chancellor and Vice Chancellor of the University to virtually welcome our chief guest of this event, Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Dash. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Anand Rajaput, Dean Academic and Director of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology at Sri Vaishnav Vidyalaya and Chairperson of Avdharan 2022 to throw light on the conference Avdharan 2022.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Chief Guest of the function, Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Dash, Vice Chancellor, Asian Institute of Public Health, AIPH University, Bhubaneswar, and former Vice Chancellor, Central University of Tamil Nadu. Shri Purushottam Das Ji Pasari, Honorable Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, Shri Kamal Narayan Ji Buradia, Honorary Secretary, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Trust, respected members of Shri Vaishnav Group of Trust, dignitaries from various institute and industry across the India, head of the institutes, head of the departments, speakers of various plenary sessions, session chairs of various sessions, authors, delegates, press and media, faculty members, and my dear young friends. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all in inaugural function of Avdharan 2022, an online conference on sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities organized by Shri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya in association with ICT Academy on 24th and 25th June 2022. Shri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology is a constituent institute of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, established with the objective to provide teaching and training and to promote research as well as advancement and dissemination of knowledge and technology as per current industry needs. Institute offers various BTech programs in collaboration with IBM, Microsoft, Red Hat Academy, TCS, Impetus Technologies, Apple Authorized Training Center, National Cyber Defense Research Center, with the specialization in big data analytics, cloud and mobile computing, artificial intelligence, data science, full stack development, blockchain, enterprise systems, information and cybersecurity, mobile applications, business systems, Internet of Things, machine learning, and information and communication technology. ICT Academy is an initiative of the Government of India in collaboration with the state governments and industries. ICT Academy was formed with representation from the state government of Tamil Nadu, leading companies in the ICT industry, and the National Association of Software Service Companies, NASSCOM in India. In January 2021, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya signed MOU with ICT Academy. Under this agreement, 3 academies have been established in the university, that is AWS Academy, Palo Alto Academy, and Oracle Academy. Since the inception of SWV ICT Academy, 58 faculty members and 358 students from the university have been trained in various IT-related courses. ICT Academy Center of Women Empowerment, powered by DXC Technology, has been established in the university in the month of March 2021. Total 101 girls students of SWV are nominated for training on specific advanced technology courses as per the industry needs. In continuation of collaboration, now we are organizing Avdharan 2022 second annual conference in collaboration with ICT Academy. Avdharan 22 is a forum for presenting scientific results related to innovative fundamental and applied research in sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities. Sustainable computing is a concept that encompasses a wide range of rules, process, initiatives, and attitudes that apply to any use of information technology. The goal of sustainability is to create and maintain conditions that allow human and the environment to work together in fruitful harmony. Sustainability necessitates a sense of balance. Sustainable development aims to strike a balance between social, economic, and environmental goals to ensure the well-being of current and future generations. These goals are interlinked and as a result are equally vital. In this century, there is a pressing need to discover, analyze, and develop theories, models, concept, practice that counterbalance the imbalance and promote sustainability. Sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities is an interdisciplinary field that tries to balance ecological, economic, and community concern for sustainable development using approaches from computer science, information technology, operational research, applied mathematics, and statistics. Avdharan 22 is committed to exploring the existing academic and ethical standards in the global computing and information technology workforce. The efforts have been made to maintain the integrity of published work, cautioning authors against plagiarism and other kinds of ethical breach. Making work discoverable, encouraging the distribution of academic contributions to the widest possible audience, and keeping them in their original published form. Avdharan 2022 organizing committee members in SWV and ICT Academy had worked extremely hard to prepare an outstanding conference. Your strong support and active participation have made the Avdharan a successful event. We received participation from various parts of the country, which include Jharkhand, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Tripura, and Chandigarh. The quality and topic spectrum of plenary sessions is very current and broad. 6 renowned speakers from industry across the country in the field of information technology will deliver expert talk in 2 different plenary sessions during 2 days of conference. The speakers of plenary sessions are Mr. Anitya Ghosh, Director and Associate Partner, Data Science, AI and Data Platform Services, IBM, Mr. Shubham Avasthi, Deputy Vice President, Information Systems and Security, Axis Bank India, Ms. Monica Gungrani, Technical Account Manager, Red Hat India Private Limited, Mr. Anay Pathak, Advisor Consultant, CTO Ambassador, Dell Technologies, Mr. Venkata Satish, Director Security at Predip.com, India Private Limited, Mumbai, Mr. Chinmay Dave, Head Mobile Center of Excellence, TCS. In different plenary sessions, we will discuss various aspects for the swift development of sustainability computing for multidisciplinary realities. 29 authors will present their research work in 3 different concurrent technical sessions during 2 days of schedule. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the conference organizing committee for their hard work. I would like to thank participants for joining us. Once again, I am delighted to welcome all the participants from different institutes across the country. We are sure this conference will be a memorable, highly educational, and not to be missed event. We truly value your participation and support for this conference. In closing, I hope that all of you will enjoy this virtual conference. Thank you. Over to you, Rupali.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving the knowledge about the conference. Now, I would like to invite our pillar of strength and constant source of motivation, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University, Dr. Bhupinder Dhar, to deliver the welcome address.
Chief guest on this occasion, Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Ji Das, Honorable Vice Chancellor, AIPH University, Bhubaneswar, Honorable Chancellor of our university, Shri Purushottam Ji Das, Honorary Secretary of the Trust, Shri Kamal Narayan Ji Buradia, all guests, distinguished speakers for the day, directors of various constituent institutes, delegates, and my dear students. The theme of today's conference, which will be running today and tomorrow, two-day conference, is very important, keeping in view the contemporary issues. At the outset, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Dash, and all other distinguished guests to this conference. Software and IT usage are continuously growing to keep our society active and manage our individual lives. In fact, IT has become a part and parcel of our lives now. With COVID-19, usage has multiplied. We cannot think, perhaps we cannot think life without IT. But as they grow, as this software and IT usage grow, their energy demand is exploding. By 2030, data centers alone will already consume some 10% of the global electricity, including the internet, telecommunications, and embedded devices. The energy consumption will be 1/3 of the global demand. Understanding that end users only consume what we offer, it is the community of software developers who must become active in ecological behaviors. Green IT is the call of the day. Each single line of code that we develop today may still be running years from now on zillions of processors, eating energy and contributing to global climate change. Software and IT usage are continuously growing to keep our society active and manage our individual lives, as I said. Green IT and green coding describe a paradigm switch in which software engineers, developers, testers, and IT administrators can make their solutions and services more energy efficient. Every single software person can contribute. In this situation, as we are experiencing today, as we are already experiencing the climate change, with the introduction of high bandwidth data transfers affordable data plans, the generalized migration of software applications and data management to the cloud, the wide range, the wide usage of streaming services, and obviously the many embedded computers in our everyday lives, digital infrastructure, are experiencing an ever-growing demand for energy, while digital transformation looks impressive. All of us talk about it, that digital transformation is happening and things have become easier. It looks very impressive, no doubt, from an economic perspective. It has its downside on the ecologic footprint of these businesses. So there is a paradox. On one hand, it looks impressive, but at the same time, there is a downside. An immediate action is to adopt more renewable energy. Energy-hungry companies such as Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are currently investing in water energy. For example, to cool their data centers, solar energy, and wind farms. Many companies emerge and engage in trading carbon dioxide certificates to give a green color to the energy waste of their data centers. But renewable energy only cures the symptoms. It causes, it does not really solve reducing the need for energy. To address the root cause, or so to say root causes, we need green IT, such as lower energy consumption in data centers and for cloud services, as well as green code, which addresses how to efficiently organize the software itself. Green IT provides solutions to sustainably reduce the energy needs of the data centers and cloud services. As an example, the Lower Energy Acceleration Program, that is LEAP, has been launched to explore alternative solutions toward a sustainable growth of the data center industry. As we know, globally, people are concerned. United Nations in 2015 set up 17 Sustainable Development Goals so that attention of the whole world is drawn to various immediate concerns. And in 15 years' time, it was envisaged that in 15 years' time, we should be able to accomplish the goals conveniently. Now, as we know, 7 years have already passed. We have to achieve these goals by 2030. 7 years are already passed. We are left with only 8 years. Therefore, we need to hurry up. On one hand, we are progressing, no doubt. We are advancing. Quality of life is improving. Things are becoming easier. It has become easier to function. But at the same time, on the other hand, the negative aspect needs to be controlled. And one of them is to think of sustainable computing in this particular respect. Because sustainability is very important. What we do, it must sustain. The whole world must sustain. So we cannot think of short-term goals. We have to think of long-term goals, happier life for everyone on this earth. With these words, I welcome all the guests. Once again, I welcome Dr. Dash, and we are very eager to listen to him and learn from his experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining all the components of sustainable computing. It will set the perfect platform to discuss the theme of the conference. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite the man of distinct vision, Honorable Chancellor of the University, Shri Purushottam Dasji Pasari, to share his views on this special occasion.
नमस्कार। माननीय मुख्य अतिथि पद्मश्री डॉक्टर आदित्य प्रसाद जी दास, कुलपति AIPH विश्वविद्यालय भुवनेश्वर, श्री वैष्णव विद्यापीठ ट्रस्ट के मानद सचिव श्री कमल नारायण जी बुराड़िया, वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय के कुलपति डॉक्टर उपिंदर धर जी, श्री वैष्णव शैक्षणिक एवं पारमार्थिक न्यास के सभी ट्रस्टीगण, अवधरण 2022 में आयोजित सत्रों के सभी विद्वान वक्तागण, डॉक्टर आनंद राजावत, डीन एकेडमिक एवं अध्यक्ष अवधरण 2022, देश के विभिन्न भागों से उपस्थित समस्त प्रतिभागीगण, विश्वविद्यालय के विभिन्न इंस्टीट्यूट्स के निर्देशकगण, विभागाध्यक्ष, शिक्षक एवं कर्मचारीगण एवं मेरे प्यारे विद्यार्थियों, मैं आज विश्वविद्यालय द्वारा आयोजित अवधरण 2022 द्वितीय कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑन सस्टेनेबल कंप्यूटिंग फॉर मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी रियलिटीज में आप सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं, स्वागत करता हूं। आज के कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि पद्मश्री श्री आदित्य प्रसाद जी दास का विशेष रूप से अभिनंदन करता हूं एवं उनका आभारी हूं जो उन्होंने हमारे निमंत्रण को स्वीकार किया एवं आज हमारे मध्य उपस्थित हुए हैं। आज अवधरण 2022 में आपकी उपस्थिति से हम सभी गौरवान्वित महसूस कर रहे हैं। मैं आशान्वित हूँ कि आपके विचारों को सुनकर उपस्थित प्रतिभागीगण लाभान्वित अवश्य होंगे। श्री वैष्णव ट्रस्ट एवं उनकी सहयोगी संस्थाओं ने गत 138 वर्ष से इंदौर शहर में नर सेवा नारायण सेवा इस मंत्र को आधार मानकर जन सेवा एवं जन कल्याण के अनेक प्रकल्प संचालित किए हैं। वर्ष 1884 में इंदौर के वस्त्र व्यवसायियों ने स्वयं के व्यवसाय पर शैक्षिक टैक्स लगाकर श्री वैष्णव सहायक कपड़ा मार्केट कमेटी की स्थापना की थी। इसका मूल उद्देश्य असहाय बंधुओं एवं जरूरतमंद नागरिकों की सहायता करना, पशु पक्षियों का आहार देना और साधु संतों की सेवा करना था। सभी पूर्ववर्ती संस्थापकों की दूरदर्शिता पूर्ण नीतियों के क्रियान्वयन के फलस्वरूप संस्था द्वारा 1925 में श्री वैष्णव अन्न क्षेत्र एवं श्री रामकृष्ण बाग और 1934 में श्री वैष्णव आयुर्वेदिक औषधालय की स्थापना की गई थी। यह औषधालय विगत 87 वर्षों से आज भी संचालित है एवं अब इसमें आयुर्वेदिक, एलोपैथिक, होम्योपैथिक पद्धति से मरीजों का इलाज किया जाता है। सन 1951 में श्री क्लास मार्केट वैष्णव हायर सेकेंडरी स्कूल की स्थापना की गई। यह विद्यालय स्थापित होना श्री वैष्णव ट्रस्ट के इतिहास में एक टर्निंग पॉइंट सिद्ध हुआ। इसके पश्चात 1962 में श्री वैष्णव पॉलिटेक्निक, 1967 में श्री वैष्णव वाणिज्य महाविद्यालय, 1981 में श्री वैष्णव क्लाथ मार्केट श्री वैष्णव बाल मंदिर, 1987 में श्री वैष्णव इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मैनेजमेंट, 1992 में श्री वैष्णव कन्या विद्यालय, 1993 में श्री वैष्णव एकेडमी, 1995 में श्री वैष्णव प्रौद्योगिकी एवं विज्ञान संस्थान तथा 2005 में श्री वैष्णव विधि संस्थान तथा श्री वैष्णव शिक्षक प्रशिक्षण महाविद्यालय, 2019 में श्री वैष्णव स्पोर्ट्स एकेडमी स्थापित की गई। आज इन सभी संस्थाओं में 23,000 से अधिक विद्यार्थी अध्ययनरत थे। इसके अलावा 2015 में संस्था द्वारा 2 डायलिसिस सेंटर प्रारंभ किए गए, जिसमें प्रति माह करीब 1,000 से अधिक डायलिसिस 400 रुपए नाम मात्र की शुल्क से किए जाते हैं, जबकि डायलिसिस की कॉस्ट 1200 रुपए डायलिसिस होती है। इसके अलावा ट्रस्ट द्वारा विभिन्न लोकोपकारी कल्याण योजनाओं में भी करीब प्रतिवर्ष 2 करोड़ रुपए की सहायता जन साधारण को दी जाती है। उल्लेखनीय है कि न लाभ न हानि के आधार पर संचालित ये सभी संस्थाएं अपनी प्रतिष्ठा से संपूर्ण प्रदेश को गौरवान्वित कर रही है। सभी शासकीय औपचारिकता पूर्ण करने के पश्चात सन 2015 में श्री वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय मध्य प्रदेश निजी विश्वविद्यालय अधिनियम के अंतर्गत स्थापित किया गया है। विश्वविद्यालय की स्थापना मानवता के बेहतर भविष्य के उत्थान को उत्कृष्ट शिक्षा, प्रशिक्षण एवं अनुसंधान के माध्यम से उत्थान करने की दृष्टि से की गई है। विश्वविद्यालय का उद्देश्य ऐसा उत्कृष्ट शैक्षणिक वातावरण प्रदान करना है जिससे कि बौद्धिक, नैतिक एवं आध्यात्मिक प्रेरणा मिल सके एवं मूल्य आधारित नेतृत्व की क्षमता को पोषित किया जा सके। विश्वविद्यालय हमेशा सामाजिक रूप से जिम्मेदार नागरिकों के विकास एवं वैश्विक समाज के विकास की ओर प्रयासरत है। श्री वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय समाज के विभिन्न क्षेत्रों की जरूरतों को विविध विधाओं में उच्च शिक्षा के माध्यम से पूर्ण करने की ओर लगातार प्रयासरत है तथा स्थापना के अल्प समय में ही ये विश्वविद्यालय प्रादेशिक एवं राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर उन्नतिशील संस्थान के रूप में अपने आप को प्रतिष्ठित करने में सफल रहा है। छात्रों के समग्र विकास हेतु विश्वविद्यालय स्तर पर अनेकानेक कार्यशालाएं, सेमिनार एवं अन्य कई प्रकार की एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर गतिविधियों का संचालन वर्ष भर किया जाता है। कोरोना के दौर में भी विश्वविद्यालय की सभी गतिविधियों का आयोजन ऑनलाइन माध्यम पर अनवरत जारी है। अवधारण 2022 की विषय वस्तु सस्टेनेबल कंप्यूटिंग फॉर मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी रियलिटीज के अत्यंत ही समसामयिक एवं महत्वपूर्ण है। अवधारण 2022 कॉन्फ्रेंस का उद्देश्य शिक्षाविदों के साथ साथ इंडस्ट्री के विषय विशेषज्ञों को एक साझा मंच प्रदान करना है जहां वे भविष्य में तकनीकी क्षेत्र में उपलब्ध अवसर और चुनौतियों पर चर्चा कर सके एवं इंडस्ट्री में हो रहे नवीनतम शोध एवं समस्याओं के व्यवहारिक समाधान के अनुभवों को विद्यार्थियों के साथ साझा कर सके। विश्वविद्यालय द्वारा अवधारण 22 का आयोजन आईसीटी एकेडमी चेन्नई के सहयोग से किया जा रहा है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि सभी प्रतिभागीगण इस आयोजन से लाभान्वित होंगे एवं सस्टेनेबल कंप्यूटिंग में अपना योगदान देंगे। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. It's very proud moment for us to present the work of researchers in the form of conference souvenir. I request our chief guest, Dr. Aditya Prasad Das, to virtually unveil Samastika 2022, the souvenir of Avdharan 2022. Samastika 2022, the present souvenir is a collection of abstracts of 29 research papers accepted for presentation during the Avdharan 2022. This souvenir, the research paper present their scientific results related to innovative fundamental and applied research in sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities. The souvenir provides a glimpse of the wisdom generated by the contributions made by research scholars in their academic journey. Thank you. Thank you, sir. It's a great honor for us that we have among us as chief guest of today's event. Chief guest of today's event, Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Das. I request Head of the Department of Information Technology at Sri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology and convener of Avdharan 2022, Dr. Jigyasu Dubey, to read the citation of Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Das.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning to all. I feel honored and privileged to read the citation of Dr. Dash. I quote, Dr. Dash is PhD and DSc in zoology. He has devoted his career in developing various tools, technologies, strategies, in biomedical science. He has played an important role in involving community in controlling the diseases like malaria, lymphatic filariasis, visceral leishmaniasis, dengue, and chikungunya, and soil-transmitted helminthiasis. His contribution on modern biology of disease vectors is especially significant and meaningful. He has contributed in inferring the phylogenetic interrelationships among Indian malaria vectors. He has also developed novel genomic marker to understand population structure and demographic history of Indian PVVX. Dr. Dash has made significant contributions on epidemiology of malaria in India and the challenges faced by the Indian program to control this disease. He has published more than 250 papers in reputed peer-reviewed journals with high citation index, H index, and I10 index. He was a bench-level scientist at the Regional Medical Research Center and ICMR unit at Bhubaneswar. As a field biologist, he worked amongst tribals in remote areas of Odisha, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh in India. He devoted about 15 years in training and teaching of PhD scholars. Dr. Dash has worked in a variety of fields, including field biology, epidemiology, transmission biology, immunology, and molecular biology. The journey through these years made him realize the ground realities and challenges associated with health-related research and control activities. He was a master trainer of trainers in the area of malaria and lymphatic filariasis, imparting practical working knowledge to health care professionals. Dr. Dash has spent 11 years as director of different research institutions under Indian Council of Medical Research (ICMR) and Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. He gave insight into bio-environmental control and desert malaria. He was also in charge of other institutes under ICMR like Center for Research in Medical Entomology, Madurai. He has passionately pursued over the last 25 years, creating platforms for scientists to share their ideas and has pioneered in developing several technical strategies and guidelines followed by many countries. He has contributed to the development of the global strategies for malaria elimination and also the global strategy on dengue. Dr. Dash was Vice Chancellor of Central University of Tamil Nadu from 6th August 2015 to 5th August 2020. Thereafter, he was consultant to the World Health Organization from September 2020 to April 2021. He has been associated with various national and international committees as chairman and expert members. Key achievements: he has been awarded Padma Shri in Science and Engineering in 2022, ranked 7th among the top 10 Indian researchers in the area of immunology and microbiology besides medicine. He has been highest producer in P. falciparum research in India during the last 10 years. Chairman, Regional Program Review Group of the World Health Organization for lymphatic filariasis, soil-transmitted helminthiasis, and schistosomiasis 2022 to 2023. Chairman, Regional Technical Advisory Group of the World Health Organization for dengue and Aedes-borne diseases in Southeast Asia region 2021 to 2023. Former Chairman of Expert Group, National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, Government of India, Scientific Advisory Committee, Vector Control Research Center, Pondicherry, High Power Committee, Aircraft Disinfection, UGC Committee, Zoology and Aquaculture, Joint Monitoring Mission for Malaria Elimination, WHO and Government of India, Human Ethics Committee, Central University of Jharkhand. Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, is privileged to present this citation to Dr. A.P. Dash for gracing the second International Conference on Sustainable Computing for Multidisciplinary Realities, Avdharan 2022 as Chief Guest on June 24, 2022. Unquote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Honorable Chancellor and Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University to virtually present the citation to Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Das. Thank you. It's my pleasure to welcome Padma Shri Dr. Aditya Prasad Das to address us.
Thank you very much. At the outset, let me express my gratitude to the organizers for inviting me to this important conference on sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities. It is very important nowadays, and to interact with this audience for a little while, though virtually. Now, I have heard the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dhar, speaking about sustainable development goals. As you know, I'm a biologist, but we know the importance of computing. We know the importance of mathematical modeling. So I'm very happy. I was very happy when Professor Dhar, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, was speaking about sustainable development goals. Very rightly, he has said that we are already in the 7th year of the sustainable development goals and only 8 years are left. So we have sustainable development goals is all about happy and peaceful life for all. If you see, there are 17 sustainable development goals, and in 2015, I can go back a little bit. The sustainable development goals have their origin from the Millennium Development Goals, which was there in 2000, and there are 15 Millennium Development Goals to be achieved within 2015. 2015, the United Nations took a review of the achievements in the Sustainable Development Goals, and then Millennium Development Goals, and then started Sustainable Development Goals to be achieved by 2030, and there are 17 sustainable goals. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, you will see almost all the Sustainable Development Goals revolves around gender, equity, and human rights. If you see, the higher education, quality education relates to Sustainable Development Goal number 4. And there are 3 goals. Goal number 13, 14, and 15 of SDGs are related to climate change action. All the climate change action, this climate change action 3 goals and the quality education are also indirectly related to gender, equity, and human rights. So these are the things we need to achieve by 2017. And if you look at this, there are many, the main theme of the conference as we are organizing, the sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities is an important component among each of these sustainable development goals. And you might be aware that on 28th January 2021, the United Nations launched a roadmap for controlling and eliminating neglected tropical diseases which affect the marginalized community, which will help to achieve the sustainable development goals. And for this, when we see that the sustainable development goals are there, and we have to see where we stand now. If there is a review, in fact, a paper was published in Lancet in 2019, where I was an author, and we have reviewed the progress of sustainable development goals in 192 countries. We found that how different countries has achieved how much and what is their role in achieving each and every sustainable development goals and where they stand now. If we look at that one, you can see that by 2019 or 2020, serial number of India was 120 in achieving or progressing in the achievement of the sustainable development goals. And India was much below. China was 57, Finland was number 1, Thailand was 43, China was 57, Bhutan, our neighboring country, was 75. Maldives, a small country with 350,000 population, was 87. Nepal, our neighboring country, was 88. Myanmar, again, our neighboring country, was 101. Bangladesh was even 119, but India's number was 120. So looking at this, there was a meeting of the AIU, Association of Indian Universities, in Mysore recently. It was discussed very seriously there. What should be the role of the higher education institutes or the universities in achieving? How can the universities contribute to the achievement of the SDGs so that the India's number can brought up from 120 to at least 20 or something like that? Education, providing students with the knowledge, skill, and motivation to understand and address the challenges of the Sustainable Development Goals. Research, encouraging and promoting the Sustainable Development Goals as a topic of research within the university, supporting the full spectrum of research approaches needed to address the SDGs, including interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research. Here, the sustainable computing will play a major role. Then in operation and governance, aligning university governance structures and operational policies with the aim of the Sustainable Development Goals are necessary. Then coming to external leadership, if you think, strengthening public engagement and participation in addressing the Sustainable Development Goals is also another important parameter which the universities and higher education institutes can do. There was a, if you see, there is a Mysore Declaration on 25th March 2022. As I said, in March 2022, there was a meeting of the all vice chancellors organized by the Association of Indian Universities at Mysore. And they all came together, deliberated on the Sustainable Development Goals and India's position in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and came up with a Mysore Declaration. The Mysore Declaration says that it was adopted, Mysore Declaration was adopted at the 96th annual meeting of the AIU and the National Vice Chancellors Conference, which was concluded at the University of Mysore on 25th March 2022. The Vice Chancellors of Indian universities, those who are present there, resolved that the universities should draw strategies for achieving their targets for the realization of Sustainable Development Goals. Then the Vice Chancellors have also resolved to commit themselves for the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals and align university education, research, innovation, and governance towards achieving the goals and targets set out to reach the all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The Mysore Declaration is a landmark result of the universities in India to enable India to achieve Sustainable Development Goals accomplishments and take India to 20 by 2030 from 122 in 2022. This should be the commitment from the all university. This was declared, and I hope and I appeal to all faculty members and the staff and the management of the all universities, wherever I go, I say about that, please see, put Sustainable Development Goals agenda in your education system and research system so that India can go up from 120 in 2022 to 20, at least 20 in 2030. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your profound knowledge related to sustainable development, higher education, and initiatives related to the development of India with us. Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Honorable Secretary of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Trust, Shri Kamal Narayan Ji Budaria, to propose the words of thanks.
आज के हमारे आज के हमारे कार्यक्रम अवधारण 2022 के माननीय मुख्य अतिथि माननीय पद्मश्री डॉक्टर आदित्य प्रसाद दस, वाइस चांसलर AIPH विश्वविद्यालय भुवनेश्वर, वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय के कुलाधिपति श्री पुरुषोत्तम दास जी पसारी, वाइस चांसलर डॉक्टर उपेंद्र धर जी, कार्यक्रम के अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर आनंद राजावत जी, डीन एकेडमिक, देश के विभिन्न भागों से उपस्थित समस्त प्रतिभागीगण, वक्तागण, वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय के विभिन्न इंस्टीट्यूट के निदेशकगण, विभागाध्यक्ष, शिक्षकगण, स्टाफ मेंबर्स, वैष्णव ट्रस्ट समूह के सभी ट्रस्टीगण एवं प्यारे विद्यार्थियों, आज हमारे लिए अत्यंत ही गौरव एवं सौभाग्य का विषय है कि पद्मश्री डॉक्टर आदित्य प्रसाद जी, जो कि कई पोस्टों पे रह चुके हैं और वर्तमान में वाइस चांसलर AIPH यूनिवर्सिटी भुवनेश्वर के हैं, आज हमें मुख्य अतिथि के रूप में हमारे बीच उपस्थित हैं। डॉक्टर आदित्य प्रसाद जी का जीवन हम सभी के लिए एक प्रेरणादायी पुस्तक के समान है, क्योंकि जब अभी हमने उनका परिचय सुना, कितने उनके अचीवमेंट हैं, वास्तव में वो पद्मश्री के बहुत पहले अधिकारी हो जाने चाहिए, लेकिन अभी सरकार ने उन्हें पद्मश्री से अभी 2022 में ही उनका पद्मश्री उनको दी है। मैं उनका अभिनंदन करता हूं। सर, निश्चय ही हम सब आपके बहुआयामी व्यक्तित्व से के प्रकाश में अभिभूत हैं। पूरा वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय परिवार आपका इस अवसर पर आभार व्यक्त करता है। निश्चय ही आपके ज्ञान एवं अनुभव से हमारा ये उभरता विश्वविद्यालय परिवार समृद्ध हुआ है। आपके लिए मैं यही कहूंगा कि मिलते हैं किस्मतों से ऐसे मेहमा कभी कभी, मिलते हैं किस्मतों से ऐसे मेहमा कभी कभी, हो जाती है किस्मतें यूं मेहरमा कभी कभी, जज्बात जग जाए नया हम सब भी कुछ करें, देखा परिचय जो देखा आपका, हमको लगा हम भी तो कुछ बने, मिलती है किसी से प्रेरणा कभी कभी, हो जाती है किस्मतें यूं मेहरमा कभी कभी। निश्चय ही आपके ज्ञान से सभी उपस्थित जो श्रोतागण हैं और जो उपस्थित हमारी सेमिनार में उपस्थित हैं, उनको सस्टेनेबल कंप्यूटिंग में कैसा हम कर सकते हैं, जैसा कि आपने बताया कि रिसर्च, गवर्नेंस और एजुकेशन और मोटिवेशन से हम इसमें सस्टेनेबल, इसमें हम अधिक कार्य कर सकते हैं। इसमें आपने जो हमें जानकारियां दी है, उससे प्रतिभागियों को सस्टेनेबल कंप्यूटर की रिसर्च एवं नवीन आयामों के विषय में एक नया विजन मिलेगा। मैं अवधारणा 2022 के विभिन्न सत्रों में आमंत्रित विशिष्ट वक्ताओं श्री अनिंद घोष IBM, श्री शुभम अवस्थी एक्सिस बैंक, सुश्री मोनिका गुगनानी रेड हैट इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड, श्री अन्या पाठक डेल टेक्नोलॉजी, श्री वेंकट सतीश गुटुला redf.com इंडिया लिमिटेड, श्री चिन्मय दवे TCS को भी धन्यवाद एवं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। निश्चय ही आप सभी का विभिन्न सत्रों में जो आप मार्गदर्शन देंगे वो प्रतिभागियों के लिए प्रेरणा का स्रोत रहेगा। देश के विभिन्न भागों में उपस्थित सभी प्रतिभागियों का भी मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं हमारे वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय के कुलाधिपति जो हमेशा नई सोच के साथ कार्य करते हैं, श्री पुरुषोत्तम दास जी पसारी एवं अत्यंत ऊर्जावान वाइस चांसलर डॉक्टर उपेंद्र धर का भी इस अवसर पर आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं आज के अवधारणा 2022 के अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर आनंद राजावत एवं उनकी पूरी टीम को भी धन्यवाद एवं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं एवं अवधारण 2022 की सफलता की शुभकामना देता हूं। मैं विश्वविद्यालय के समस्त निर्देशकगण, विभाग अध्यक्ष, फैकल्टी मेंबर्स एवं उपस्थित प्यारे विद्यार्थियों का भी आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं कार्यक्रम संचालिका मास्टर ऑफ सेरेमनी श्रीमती रूपाली भरतिया का भी अच्छे कार्यक्रम संचालन हेतु आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं पुनः आज के हमारे मुख्य अतिथि पद्मश्री डॉक्टर आदित्य प्रसाद दस का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं, क्योंकि और ये मैं ये सोचता हूं कि जैसा कि डॉक्टर आदित्य दास जी ने बताया कि हमारा नंबर बहुत पीछे है, 120 में है, जबकि कई छोटी छोटी कंट्रीज हमसे उनका नंबर बहुत आगे चल रहा है। तो ये कॉन्फ्रेंस निश्चित ही हमारे इस नंबर को और ठीक करने में सहयोगी होगी, ऐसा मैं विश्वास व्यक्त करता हूं। वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय परिवार यह मंगल कामना करता है कि सर दास सर स्वस्थ रहें, शतायु हों, आपका सर इकबाल और बुलंद हो और आप देश और समाज की ऐसी ही सेवा करते रहें। सभी का पुनः बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आभार। जय वैष्णव, जय हिंद।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your words of praise. I now request everyone present here to kindly rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा। विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा। तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मांगे। गाहे तव जय गाथा, जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you, everyone. With this, we came to the end of the inaugural session of Avdharan 2022. The first plenary session of Avdharan 2022 will start at 12:30 p.m. I request everyone present here to join the session. I invite Ms. Reena Mishra, Madam, to take over the next session at 12:30.
Thank you very much,
Have a
Dr.
nice
Das. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Das.
Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. It was nice interacting to you all. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, sir.
Professor Avdharan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Shall I take leave now?
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
हेलो, श्रीकांत, लिंक को इनेबल्ड ही रखो, कंटिन्यू रखें। Reena? Reena madam?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Aniti. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay.
Okay, Reena ma'am, start.
Yeah, you just have to give me a couple of minutes. I'm also trying to share my
Okay,
screen
no
right
issue.
now.
No issue.
Hello and good afternoon to all present here. On behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, I, Reena Mishra, welcome you all in an online international conference on sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities, organized by Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya in association with ICT Academy on 24th and 25th June 2022. I am delighted to convey gracious reception to our session chairperson. Our first session chairperson is Dr. K. N. Guru Prasad ji. And here is a brief introduction about him. Dr. K. N. Guru Prasad ji is the Dean Faculty of Science and Agriculture, Director SVIS, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya. Sir has total 35 plus years of teaching experience in MSc Life Science, MSc Industrial Microbiology. He has supervised PhD for 25 students. He was the principal investigator in 12 projects funded by UGC, CSIR, GST, VRNS, MPCST, ICAR, NFPSR, and BASF. Also, visiting scientist in Biology Department, Kobe University, Kobe, Japan. Biophysics Department, Moscow University, Moscow, Russia. He has presented 50 papers in national and international conferences and 90 research papers published in national and international journals of repute. He worked as Head Department of Life Science, Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Dean Life Science, DAVV, Indore. Our second session chairperson is Dr. Namit Gupta, and here is a brief introduction about him. Dr. Namit Gupta is a professor and director of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Technology and Science, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. His area of research are quantum computing, embedded system, spintronics, 5G communication system, etc. He has done his PhD in quantum cellular automata based design from DAVV Indore. He has published and presented more than 50 research papers in various national and international journals and conferences. He has been awarded one patent in his name. Today, we have three renowned distinguished speakers with us. Mr. Anil Ghosh, Director and Associate Partner, Data Science, AI and Data Platform Services, IBM. Mr. Shubham Avasthi, Deputy Vice President, Information System and Security, Axis Bank. Ms. Monica Gagnani, Technical Account Manager, Red Hat India Private Limited. May I take a pleasure of requesting Dr. K.N. Guruprasad Sir, Dean Faculty of Science and Agriculture, Director SVIS, SVV Indore, for an opening remark for Second International Conference on Sustainable Computing for Multidisciplinary Realities, Avdharan 2022, in collaboration with ICT Academy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Reena Mishra. In this first session of the conference, we have three speakers, Mr. Anindya Ghosh from IBM, then Shubham Avasthi from Cybersecurity, and Madam Monica Gagnani from Red Hat India. As the introduction given by Madam makes you aware that I am not from computer science, but I work in biological sciences. I was quite amused to find the word sustainability with computers, because in biology now we believe that humans have already evolved into a next stage of evolution because of computers. 20 years back, we had just humans, and now we have humans plus computers or humans plus mobiles, because humans cannot exist without the use of computers and without the mobiles. Now, with the increasing use of the mobiles and computers, what the future holds for us is the computers and mobiles being in the focus of our life. So if we define sustainability, one of the definitions of sustainability is to meet our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, since the use of computers and mobiles is on the rise, and it's going to be more and more for the coming generations, are we compromising the need of the future in terms of energy and in terms of the environmental changes we are making because of the overuse of computers and mobiles at present? This links the sustainability to the energy efficiency of the computers and also recycling of the e-waste generated by computers and mobiles, and other related factors that will ensure that the vast expansion in the industry of computers and mobiles will not deprive the energy resources, will not pollute the environment and other related things. In other words, we need to make the use of computers and mobiles sustainable for the future, especially looking to the speed of its expansion. The need is there now for more and more research to find new ways of dealing with the future requirement or using more computers. Now, in addition to this, perhaps there is also a need for a social change, since when we link the need-based use of energy and other resources, we also have to define how much do we need this. If you just look at the way we are using the mobiles, are we using it as per our need, or are we overusing it? We need to think about this, and maybe along with the technological developments, along with scientific developments for sustainable computing in the future, we may also need certain social policies to limit the use of energy and use the computers and mobiles as per the need. And it's extremely difficult in case of human societies to define what's the limits of the need. So that needs that also has a component it requires to be incorporated in our future planning for energy efficient use of energy, particularly in the area of computers and mobiles. So with this introduction, I look forward to listening to our experts in this field. And our first speaker is Mr. Anindya Ghosh from IBM. He will be speaking on sustainable computing and virtualization. So I request Mr. Reena Mishra to invite our first speaker.
Thank you, sir. Programmers don't burn out on hard work. They burn out on change with the wind, directives, and not shipping. With this quote, we would like to invite our first speaker of the first plenary session, Mr. Anindya Ghosh. Mr. Anindya Ghosh, Director and Associate Partner, Data Science, AI, and Data Platform Services, IBM. Sir has done his graduation in Chemical Engineering from IIT BHU and MBA from IIM Calcutta. At present, Sir is working as Director and Associate Partner on Data Science, AI, and Data Platform Services, IBM. Sir has 23 plus years of overall experience in the areas data science, AI, quality, market research, and process excellence. He is the advisor on the IIPC Industry Advisory Board of Calcutta Business School, Industry Institute Partnership Cell, and the Advisory Board of Techno Indian Adamas University. Moderator of panel on the topic of the 4-day working week in IIM Jammu and speaker on multiple corporate topics in IIMR and Adamas University 2021 and 2022. He is also a mentor of Change for the Atal Tinkering Lab program of Niti Aayog. Speakers on the topic Artificial Intelligence in Millennial Education for the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. With the immense pleasure, I would like to request Mr. Anindya Ghosh to commence the session on sustainable computing and virtualization. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Reena. I hope everybody can hear me clearly.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Let me just share my screen. I just have a few slides which I just wanted to use as I talk through what I want to talk about today, especially around sustainable computing. Okay, so let's start off here, right? I think it's something that Dr. Guru Prasad, he himself mentioned that nature has enough for everyone's need, but definitely not enough for everyone's wants, right? And I think we all know that, but we barely kind of stick to that in our daily lives, because our lives have come to a stage where our wants have really, I would say, fulfilled a huge sphere of our lives, right? And one of the things that has happened is, and as we say, the pandemic over the last couple of years, of course, it has brought in its wake multiple challenges, but it has also brought forth, what is important in our lives, what are the needs, and if we can stick to the needs, how we can lead a much more meaningful life as compared to want. So many of us around the world, globally, I would say, have slowly shunted away a lot of our wants and started focusing on the needs. So I think that's a starting point. So as we talk about this, right, what I would want to do is, again, this is a much larger topic, right? ESG. We all understand this, the environmental, the social, and the governance part of it. And I think, again, Dr. Guru Prasad talked about it a bit, that all of these things, all of these aspects are extremely important. Now, I think as we have gone through this journey, I will be speaking more from an industry perspective because I have spent about let's say 25 years in the industry. The the last 10 years approximately in IBM, right? I have seen a lot of these initiatives which address specific parts of these three dimensions, right? Today's topic, we understand, is sustainable computing, right? So we are talking about the computing part of it and not any of the other, sustainable aspects, that we see in our environment. And what we will see is that there are some specific areas, like for the ones that I've, mentioned in bold, and I was kind of, going through yesterday, and I was thinking that when we look at sustainable computing, it does have an impact on climate change and carbon emissions, because the hardware that we use, right? Of course, the more we use, the more power we use, the more hardware resources we use. Of course, it has an impact on our climate. It has an impact on these emissions, right? So there is that one aspect of the environment that we can actually tackle with this. Then there is, of course, the point of energy efficiency, right? If we can somehow, and we will see, I will pick up one of the ways of trying to bring in sustainable computing, right? But if you look at it, being energy efficient is also an extremely important thing nowadays, right? We all know about energy efficient buildings, for example, right? So we say that, can we build, towers and buildings which actually feed from direct sunlight rather than using electricity as much as possible, right? Use the buildings, use people working in the daytimes, build your windows in such a way that maximum sunlight is in there. You minimize the use of electricity. Similarly, in the case of sustainable computing, there are ways that we can try to reduce the use of multiple resources, and we'll see what resources actually mean, right? So we will get into that. We also talked about waste management, right? There is this entire thing about disposal of this hardware waste, for example, which is significant, which is not anything that one can really ignore, right? So all of these flow into, these are all aspects where sustainable computing can impact the environment. One another thing, by the way, which at many a times we ignore when we look at sustainable computing, is the social aspect of it. So there is this entire thing about data security or data protection and privacy, right? Unless our computing can ensure that we, and in fact, the latest research that which is coming out across the world, and in fact, I was also looking at some of the studies as part of our Institute of Business Values, which comes out from IBM, which says that apart from the environment, the data security part of it is extremely important, an aspect for sustainable computing. So whenever you're thinking of that, we as policymakers, we as programmers, we as whatever role we are going to play later on in the industry, we have to start thinking of it from these aspects or these angles, right? Now, of course, there are many other aspects of the environment, social, and governance, which nowadays may not be playing much into the sustainable computing part of it, but who knows? As the framework for sustainable computing evolves over time, many of these other dimensions that have been mentioned out here. So, take a good look at it. It can actually start becoming a part of sustainable computing. So whenever the definition of sustainable computing evolves, right, with the various global governing bodies, many of these dimensions could come into the picture over the years. But as of today, these are the ones that I've kind of mentioned in bold, are the ones that are essentially the impact points for sustainable computing. So having said that, let us kind of get into a bit of what is sustainable computing, right? And I know some of this is probably already as they call it, preaching to the choir. We already know, but one of the things where, which I felt as I was going through this, I was going through some of the work that, we have been doing. I have seen, being done in IBM, or a lot of the reading that, that I've been doing, is when we look at this sustainable computing, you will hear a lot of other words: responsible computing, green computing. There are multiple synonyms that are used. So these are all talking about the same thing. The important thing to realize is that sustainable computing is not just a matter of writing a set of sustainable programs, or programs which reduce your the use of, let's say, resources, right? It is just not that. That is, of course, is a very critical aspect of it. And I know there is this computer science class which is part of this session today. We start thinking about from a programming or a coding standpoint, but we need to start looking at it from a much broader lens. So as we all understand, right, the world is also starting to move towards a no-code kind of an environment, right, where we can start, leveraging existing code as much as possible without having to write anything new. But coming back to this particular topic, it is, first of all, it's a holistic approach. So it has a lot of things. It has got policies, it has got the procedures, the processes. There are multiple green computing programs, right? It's also a matter of attitudes. So in many companies, what will happen is you'll say that the moment you start trying to bring in responsible computing or green computing or sustainable computing, the initial setup costs could be very high, right? People are not used to it. Let me take one small example. We've all heard about probably concepts like data fabric, data mesh. We know about cloud database vendors. An example would be Snowflake, and the reason I take Snowflake's name is because we work very closely with them. So people who are in this field of data structures understand that there is a physical world that we create, right? And then there are virtual worlds that we create, right? And virtualization is one of the topics for today that I will get into. So in most cases, what happens is when we store data, we are storing data, of course, in a physical format. And just to ensure that there is efficiency of the data pulls for multiple analytics, reporting and all, many a times, we duplicate or replicate data into multiple systems within a company. You have a warehouse, you have a data warehouse, you have your legacy or the source systems. You could have data also, being held into some of the external, databases. So it is the same data. Same data is held in multiple places. So look at the amount of hardware, look at the amount of resources that we are actually using, right? Now, the moment we say, okay, can we bring it into a stage, compress it, actually hold it in a compressed state, and whenever we have to use the data, we virtualize it, right? Whenever we don't, shut it down. The moment we start talking about this, and this is precisely the concept that we are, I have been, fortunate to see some of these in practice using the data fabric or the cloud databases, right? If you are not used to this particular framework, you are going to spend way more money trying to virtualize when it is not required. You will not shut down the systems when they're not required. So it's a matter of attitude. You have to learn this, right, over time, that I will use the system whenever I have to, and then I'm going to shut it down. I'm not going to use it, right? I'm going to bring it back up whenever I need it. How can I know when to shut it down? How will I know when to bring it back up? Those are the entire set of procedures, which are laid out. And then we as people, right, or we as people who are kind of managing these systems, we are, you could say that the CIOs or the IT organization of companies, they have to get into that group that, yes, it's a separate job to be done. You have to keep monitoring these systems so that you can shut it down and bring them back up, so that you can preserve the energy and also carry everything in that one small piece of hardware, rather spreading it out across multiple servers, multiple hardware, right? So that's the attitude change that we are talking about. We all talked about it's a holistic life cycle management approach. Why is it life cycle management? Because it starts from how do you optimize your hardware spaces, how do you optimize your software, everything, all of that, right? And to the final disposal of the waste, right? So it's an entire process. So it goes, the typical S curve, it will go up, it will come down, you have to dispose of that. You start off a process all over again, right? So it's an entire life cycle. So we need to understand that. And then there is a power to waste to purchasing to education. So purchasing and education, that's also a huge thing, right? And then green computing, the way industries typically measure it is, of course, the total cost of ownership, right? Initially, there will be higher costs, as I said. People get really put off by that. So we cannot really start getting put off, because the long-term benefits are much more than the short-term ones, right? We look at a total impact, right? Which is the long-term, medium-term, and short-term all together. And then you look at the total benefit of these technology systems, right? So that's the kind of framework that we apply for responsible computing. Moving now, so let's focus on the bottom part of the slide. Typically, when you start going into the industry, what are the various terminologies that you're going to hear? And what are the kind of initiatives that we typically get into? One is the responsible computing. We do a lot of advisory. So think about it as many of you, let's say the research scholars or students you pass out, you will say, okay, can I advise on responsible computing, how to do it, how to go about it? Can I do a maturity assessment, of companies? Where are they in that entire journey, right? That's a very significant part of service that that is provided. Then you actually build a green IT strategy, and the strategy, as we talked about in the last slide, it's an entire life cycle. It's a holistic thing that we have to get to manage, right? Then you talk about the green IT transformation, yeah, and then the operation. So the strategy, the transformation, and operations, all three, right? These are places that one can actually play with in the industry. And I have been seeing that companies have started playing not only for themselves internally, captive, but they're also providing these as a service to other companies. Then, of course, what are some of these levers that are being used for the strategy, the transformation, the operations? Of course, a sustainable finance. You need that finance because initially it's going to be quite expensive, right, to come up with sustainable computing. Then you look at the ESG reporting, which is the environmental, social, and the governance. There are ways to report out the same metrics, but with the focus on ESG. Then, of course, there's a trusted AI in the governance. This is a very important thing that is evolving, right? The FAIR principles, FAIR, FAIR principles that are being applied in AI and data governance or AI governance, without which sustainable computing cannot be done, right? So there are aspects of, so just go back, for example, if I can just quickly, go back to this aspect of the social. Look at this, data protection and privacy. There are things like community relations, human rights, many of these things, unless and until your AI, the data, all of these are not fair. The ethical standards are not maintained. You'll not be able to bring in the social aspect. And if you cannot bring in the social aspect, that computing will not be sustainable, right? So it's important to look at it also from that particular lens. And of course, then there is this decarbonization and the clean energy transition. So all of these are services that are actually provided in industry today, right? Of course, not all of them are at the same level of maturity in terms of the services, but I'm actually seeing a lot of companies, and many of these companies are in the telecom space as well as in the retail space, where customers are saying that we will not buy your products unless and until you can certify that you have followed all of these process steps and you are actually following green computing and beyond norms. Only then will we go and buy your products. And hence, this is so important for us today. Some very quick facts, right? Some of this should not take you by surprise. For example, laser printers use significant quantum of energy while printing. So can we do something about it, right? Can we use different kinds of printers or not? We don't know. LCD monitors, for example, use 40% less energy as opposed to cathode ray tubes. Yeah. So can we use more of that? So here is the evaluation of hardware. What kind of hardware can actually help you, to bring in more of sustainable computing? Desktop power usage appears to increase by 35 to 45% every 2 years. So a lot of people are now recommending use laptops as compared to desktops, because laptops lead you to more of sustainable computing, right? Peripherals, which we do not really bother about, the printers, the photocopying machines, all of that account for about 10% or more of a desktop's energy usage. So let's shut them down, right? Whenever we're not using them. So essentially, what does that mean in terms of two important things? One is improving the bottom line and reducing the carbon footprint. And these are two different metrics, by the way. Reducing the carbon footprint is, as we said, as you are disposing of this waste, and as the energy consumption is reducing, you are actually releasing less of the carbon, right, into the atmosphere in various forms. Okay, so you're reducing a carbon footprint. So that's an environmental impact. But then there's also a bottom line impact, which is you are becoming energy efficient, so you're preserving energy, you're using less money. So companies typically would look for both of these, right? Both of these metrics, the large set of metrics together, bring in what we call as sustainable computing. You try to do one without the other, it will not work, right? So we have to start striking a balance where, if while trying to reduce the carbon footprint, if you suddenly start seeing that your bottom lines are not improving, or probably they are kind of, increasing, the question then you have to start asking yourself is it short term, or is it a long term? Are there other ways to, actually reduce both, improve the bottom line as well as reduce the carbon footprint? So look at all of these in conjunction, right? Now, why is it important? These figures, and these are latest figures which are coming from the Institute of Business Value from IBM. They do a lot of surveys across multiple sectors with CEOs and basically the C-suite, right? So you see this, 23% of CEOs are already implementing sustainability across the entire organization. You do not get into it today, you're going to lose out in the future, where, let's say, your products will not be bought, or the programs that you write, right, will say, oh, they do not meet the green norms, so we cannot use these, use these programs, for example. So this is becoming important, and especially over the next 2 to 3 years, there will be an exponential increase or the demand for such sustainable computing, and that is what is being predicted. And also look at this. Less than 20% of executives strongly agree that the organization's actions on AI ethics match their principles and values. So which means there is a lot of work that will be done in this particular area. So all of us who are in the field of artificial intelligence and data science, right, need to take this into account. This demand is going to not reduce, but it's going to increase by leaps and bounds, because the executives do not feel that enough is being done out here. 80% reduction of CO2 emission from moving on-premise workloads to the cloud, and 65% reduction of energy costs. Now, here is where, as you get into the industry, you will see that you will face a lot of questions. Moving to the cloud seems to be a very practical option, right? But always remember that as you move to the cloud, there are a significant amount of costs in terms of the running costs. Cloud computing is not very cheap, as opposed to what many of us really think. But as I was talking about the Snowflake example, you're looking at the database on cloud. Sustainable computing will make us all more disciplined users of software and hardware. Cloud is good as long as you're disciplined in terms of how to use cloud computing or virtualization, all right? All of this is good only when you are disciplined. You need to know, so it's like saying, I cannot keep the fan on in the room switched on throughout the day, right? I could have a fan which sucks a lot of power and gives a lot of air, but then I have to keep using that in short bursts. I switch it on for 10 minutes, or I then kind of switch it off when I'm out of the room, and I come back, I switch it on back, right? I cannot be indisciplined to keep the fan on throughout, because then my energy costs, the bottom line, costs are going to spiral. My bottom line is going to reduce significantly. But if I know when to shut down, when to power up, that discipline, that monitoring will become extremely important as days go by. And there are also in the industry, there are monitoring roles that have been created to look at the hardware when it is not being used, right? So that is a significant attitude or a mindset shift that we are seeing in companies, at least over the last 3 to 4 years, to today, where people are becoming more and more disciplined. Now, there is a significant rise in the number of green data centers. Green cloud computing is primarily based on green data center technologies, and you will see a lot of this terminology coming up about green data centers. Basically, what is a green data center? It's a service facility that uses energy efficient technologies. So that's the critical thing. And for what? Data management, storage, and data operations. And this data, right, takes up the significant amount of energy, because in terms of storage, how you manage it, and operations, meaning in terms of rendering this data for analytics and other purposes, right? So the green data center is much more focused on that. And this is a trend that this is the biggest trend that you're going to see. Adoption of green data centers is expected to grow globally, right? You're going to see that over the next 4 to 5 years. And as you come into the industry, you need to be braced, or need to be prepared for working on programs, working on paradigms of the green data centers, right? And you can see some of the figures in terms of the compounded annual growth rate of this market. Now, the big thing that I want to talk about is virtualization. How does it support sustainable computing? There are 5 different kinds of virtualization, which I will not get into in details. You all understand the operating system, the platform, storage, network, and application virtualization. And all of this can reduce the costs and help you, basically reduce energy consumption. And you can see some of the metrics on the right-hand side, right? There is a greater than 80% utilization of each of the servers. So you can do with much less number of servers. There is hardware requirements, ratio of 10:1 or more. So which means you are compressing everything a lot. You save energy to the tune of about 7,000 kilowatt hours per year. It becomes, robust, affordable, and high availability, right? So basically, we are moving into the cloud computing world. We are moving into a virtualization world of the data fabric. And how are we doing it? So the way we do it is that you have at the base level, you have, from a significant number of servers, you have now reduced the number of servers, right? Very less number of machines. You have the software called the hypervisor, which manages the virtualization of the data from these servers and puts them into virtual machines, the VMs that we talked about, and you need to manage that. So essentially what is happening is you are adding a management layer, you're adding the hypervisor software layer, but you're reducing your energy consumption, you're reducing your hardware, right? So there is a bit of increase in the software that is needed to manage and to virtualize, but the hardware requirements keep going down. That's the kind of virtual world that we're talking about, which helps significantly in sustainable computing. 2 types of virtualization we typically look at. One is the persistent digital virtual worlds, or what we call as the metaverses, right? You hear this term a lot. So what is the persistent digital or virtual worlds? I mean, where the virtual world that we have created is permanent, right? We do not dismantle that world. So for example, I take a completely different example of, let's say, a virtual world of Facebook, right? Or virtual world of Instagram. Those are virtual worlds will mimic your physical world, right? Or these are digital worlds, but they do not go away. They remain, right? They persist. The energy savings in the persistent virtual worlds are slightly lower than the non-persistent digital worlds, where you create a virtual world, you then take it away. Again, create it based on need, again, take it away, which is like the data fabric and the data mesh concept. The cloud databases like Snowflake, right? You just build the virtual world whenever you need it. Take it away completely. Whenever you need it, build it again. So there, of course, there will be some effort that you need to put to build the virtual worlds every time. But then as technology improves, the building of these virtual worlds will become faster and faster, easier and easier, right? And as your monitoring improves, you're going to shut it down and bring it up exactly the time that you need it. There will be no redundancy, right? You will not keep the system up when you do not need it. So that's a non-persistent, digital world. And that is where the entire, computing is now moving towards, right? And that is why concepts like data fabric, which IBM uses a lot, data mesh, similar in concepts, but, slightly different ways of going to the same outcome. Data mesh is used a lot by Microsoft, for example. Cloud databases are dime a dozen today, Snowflake being a great example where you can shut down and power up, right? So that's the virtualization world in terms of how it works. Now, a lot of you might be thinking about what is the difference between a virtualization and containerization, which you have heard, right? Especially OpenShift and all. So you understand this. There's a host operating system, which are your servers in the operating system, right? And you have a lesser number of servers. In the case of the virtualization, you have the hypervisor software, which virtualizes it, and then there are applications which build of these and create these non-persistent virtual worlds, right? These are called guests, the guest operating systems, right? Whenever you do not need them, you can shut them out. Containerization, on the other hand, is a technology or is an approach where you are bringing in similar functionality within one container, right? So in the case of virtualization, to do one functionality, you may need 2 or 3 apps, and you need to bring them together all the time, right? So there is an effort that you have to put in to bring 2 or 3 apps. In a containerization technology, you have already brought them together. It supports one particular function, right? So that is how a containerization can, in many a times help you, especially with those functions which are often used, right? Which you do not have to always, where you don't have to bring multiple apps together all the time. They're already brought together, right? So that's at a conceptual level, the difference between a virtualization and the containerization. Now,
Mr. Ghosh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Please keep the time.
Yes. So this was this was my last slide, and I just wanted to kind of stop out here just to give a sense. I mean, my idea was to give a feel of what is sustainable computing and how virtualization helps in sustainable computing. So I kind of stop out here, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to take on the chat window. But I know we are short on time, so I'll kind of pass it back to our next speaker.
I guess there is a question in the question box. It says, what is LCD?
Oh, LCD is the liquid crystal display, right? I mean, so most of the televisions, nowadays, for example, work on the LCD technology, and in fact, it has gone even beyond into LED. So, right, so these are all different technologies for how we use televisions, desktops, and all of that, right? Where we just got a monitor, which has got keyboard. So, how are the images rendered, right? So these are all different technologies.
I just had a layman's question, Dr.
Sure.
Ghosh, about the social use of these computers.
Yeah.
It cannot be controlled as a need-based use of energy, right? Is there anything in that front that we can do?
So when you say need-based, Dr. Guruprasad, could you explain, give me an example of a need-based so that I also understand?
Like, for example, there are many social platforms where they say that, lots of people, everyone has become a writer, everyone has become a blogger. And now that uses a lot of energy in terms of data generation, right?
Yes.
So there, of course, I don't know whether it is possible to control it at all. So
my answer, so it's a very gray answer, right? I don't have a very yes/no answer out here, right? But my opinion in terms of, and this is based on whatever I've seen around, right? Especially if you're talking about social media, that social media per se only. Because the objective of social media is to generate more and more data. It may not be practically feasible to control that. But what could be controlled is, how am I using that data for downstream systems or applications? Now, if I do not need the data for all the citizens of the US, I'm just making it up, for a particular application, but yet I start bringing in the data into my servers, that's a completely non-need.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yes, some servers in the world will hold that, but I don't need to replicate that into my company's servers because I don't need that data. So the answer is very simple, that as a company, and if I'm not in the social media business, I just need to figure out what is the data that is important for me, and the rest I would want to check out, right? That is the need-based versus the want-based. Otherwise, I can always say, okay, give me all the data. I will then figure out I need it or not. No.
So you need the discretion for.
We will need the discretion, yes. And that's an important thing. Discretion and discipline, the two of the Ds, which are extremely important for sustainable computing. I was talking about discipline earlier, and you mentioned this, the other point, discretion, which is extremely critical.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. It was quite informative. May I request Reena to call the next person?
Thank you, sir, for sharing your words of wisdom through a very intellectual session. Our participants are most valuable to us. If you have any question related to the subject line, then you can post your queries in the chat box. We will cover your queries at the end of the session. If securities were all the matter, computers would never be turned on, let alone hooked into a network with literally millions of potential intruders. With this quote, we would like to invite our second speaker of the first plenary session, a very energetic and dynamic personality in the field of cybersecurity, Mr. Shubham Avasthi. Sir is working as the Deputy Vice President, Information System and Security, Axis Bank. Sir has 15 plus years of total experience in cybersecurity, cloud and network technologies across BFSI sector and service industry. He has been instrumental in adopting the Payment Services Directive's two-level controls. He has played key role in building and designing security controls in cloud-based deployments. Sir has worked on all types of cloud technologies, including open source cloud, public cloud, and hybrid model. Sir has rich experience in data center and wide area network design and implementation. We are privileged to have you as a distinguished speaker of the first plenary session of the day, sir. Without further ado, I would like to request Mr. Shubham Avasthi to commence the session on cybersecurity.
Thank you, Reena. First of all, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. In a way, perhaps I am in between you and your lunch, or not sure if you guys already done your lunch because we are in virtual medium. Anyway, so I enjoyed a lot, Mr. Ghosh, what he presented about green computing, sustainability, TCO, nowadays what COEs are thinking, and different things, very key things which nowadays industry has started thinking. He has presented and put some light on multiple topics. Now, if we talk about, we want to implement, and he also touched certain things on the database, cloud computing, hypervisor, and everything. So whenever we adopt any such thing, any technology we want to implement, we want to design, we want to incorporate in our institution, in our organization. So if we talk about in very nutshell way, like if we purchase the car, so whether we purchase the Maruti or we purchase the Mercedes, if you purchase the Mercedes, but you don't drive it with the safety guards, with the secure guidelines, guardrails, then ultimately accident will happen. So that's why here, as you mentioned, Reena, that security comes into the picture. Whatever technology we are adopting, we are implementing, until unless we put the guardrails around that, until unless we put the security controls around that. So it might be the chance that for a certain amount of time in tactical way that technology may work properly, but in long term, in a strategic perspective, it will not give the fruitful results and it may lead us towards the disruption of our business or the objective. So here to this forum, I would like to draw all of your attention towards the cyber security, nowadays very buzzword around different technologies, different conferences. Uh, as I was aware, and my assumption is that good number of audience are the students from the university, along with the distinguished professors and leaders. So I tried, to simplify how much simplify I can present to the students so that they can get certain ideas. It is very, what we can say, overloaded word, cyber security. Lot of technologies, lot of countries are involved, national threat actors, government. Just if you guys would have heard, two of the banks in the India, their staff has been categorized as critical infrastructure for the government of India. Means if either of these banks are attacked or any staff of those banks are being targeted, it will be considered the attack on nation. So this is the how cyber security nowadays is spinning up. Gradually, we are getting the guidance from regulators, government of India. So let me share my PPT. I tried to simplify most of the stuff. Let me, is my screen visible still? Rina, I may need your help. If you can move me into the presenters bucket. It appears I am not getting the presenting rights.
Okay, sir.
Yes, now I think just a second.
It is visible, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I tried to simplify my presentation so that students who are not much aware about certain jargons of industry, it should be helpful for them also. But if any of the topic you guys want to go into more details, I would be happy to touch or go into the details for those topics. So in the beginning, I will just try to explain what is cybersecurity, certain important threats, what is happening globally. Then nowadays, very buzzword is the Industry 4.0. So how security is contributing towards the Industry 4.0, then cyber awareness, few certain free trainings which may be helpful for the students that I will share. And I will also try to correlate your day-to-day examples with the cybersecurity. You might be already applying certain cybersecurity controls into your day-to-day life, but you might not aware, okay, you are doing it due to the security control perspective. So first thing comes into our mind, what is cybersecurity? So if you just three-liner PPT, cybersecurity is the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from the malicious attack. So before my presentation, whatever Mr. Ghosh presented, when you are deploying the cloud, when you are deploying the multi-server architecture, when you are adopting the new technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, all that stuff, everywhere, one key data element is the data of your organization. So how to secure your data? Because data is new oil for any country. So how to secure your data, then how to secure the computing where that data is going to be processed, and how to secure the storage where data will be stored. So computers, servers, your personal data, mostly data is on your mobile phone. We all are aware that today we may forget anything to carry with us if we are moving from one place to another. But if you missed your mobile, then all of us feel, incomplete. The complete day you are upset. My phone has been left at my home and I'm not able to concentrate. How many WhatsApp messages would be there? I didn't surf the Facebook for day long. And a lot of data we are uploading day in, day out, the pictures and a lot of stuff on the social media. So this is our personal data. For your university, their records, students' records, admission records, examination records, all those things are the data for the university. And for any institution, like for bank, customer data, your account number, your mobile number, address, your UPI pin, ATM data, all those things are the data and how to secure that data. So first, secure the data, secure your networks, because without network, your computers are of no use. Until unless we are not able to connect with each other through network, then technology is of, very limited use. And today, after the COVID, today we are meeting virtually, and it has become the new normal. And COVID made us learn about this technology to adopt, and rather, I should say, learn that COVID forced us to use this technology. And without proper networking, the whole the way we are meeting today is not possible. And if you just feel if our network is not secure enough and some disruption happens, some malicious threat actor takes the control of your network, so they may just remove my presentation and they may start presenting something else. So how to secure all those stuff against the malicious attack is the cyber security. One other word that is also interchangeably used with the cyber security, that is information security. So in some organization or in some countries in US, you may heard word cyber security preliminary used. Somewhere you may use the word information security. Overall, both things are same. Very narrow difference is there. I am not going into those details. For students, it is important to understand the cyber security or information security, how to secure, why to secure, and what to secure. These are the important stuff. Now, when we talk about security, then the one other word comes into our mind, that is safety. So how security is different from safety? Why we not call it cyber safety? Why we call it cyber security or information security? So the reason is again very thin line between safety and security. So if I try to simplify, safety covers the controls which you apply to avoid any disruption because of any accident. For example, we have the fire extinguisher in our organization, so that if mishap happens and building caught fire, then we have the fire extinguishers. So the fire extinguishers are the safety measures. In similar way, we would, deploy smoke sensors. So those again the safety measures. But what happens in the safety measures, that you prevent any mishap, you prevent any accident, you prevent any damage to happen from any accident. While security becomes bit different, where your accident is not the accident, it is due to the intentional efforts made by some human being, threat actors, national threat actors, or some hacker or someone else. So like if you compare, then smoke sensor, fire extinguisher is the safety measure. But when university is putting the lock on the gate, that is not the
Mr.
safety measure. That
Awasthi,
is,
Mr. Awasthi, sorry to interrupt you. I think your slides are not moving.
Slides are not moving.
Yeah,
Okay.
because now it has moved, but yeah, now it is showing what is cyber security.
It is showing security versus safety.
No, it is right now showing what is cyber security.
Okay, just a second. Let me reshare. Stop and reshare.
Yeah, now it is what is cyber security. Yeah.
Security versus safety.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. So as I mentioned, the fire extinguisher you are putting on your organization is the safety measures, while the locks you are putting on your lockers, your safe, your main gate, that is the security measure, because lock is preventing some thief to come into the premise without proper access approvals and all. The other keyword is the privacy nowadays. You would be hearing a lot from the government side, and since last 4-5 years, one buzzword around the globe is the GDPR. And now India has also prepared its bill and being presented to the parliament for approval. Once it approves, then again India will also have its privacy law. So then what is the difference between security and privacy? So security may be against any data, the guardrails against to safeguard any data, compute information, your personal information or whatever. Privacy is your control so that without your proper approval, your personal data cannot be accessed by anyone. For example, if you are sharing your Aadhaar number to someone, then until unless you approve, that particular entity should not be able to misuse or use otherwise your Aadhaar number anywhere. So that is the big difference between security and privacy. Yes, in India, we are not very much particular about our privacy and everything. The reality is if someone comes that we'll be offering you the SIM card if you just show the Aadhaar number, and we are happy to show 2-3 full pure family ka Aadhaar number we are ready to give. Just give us the 2 SIM cards. So, but nowadays the approach is changing. People are getting awareness around that, and as much as this GDPR and the privacy bill is under discussion among the normal citizens of India, then people are getting importance of that. And now at least I witnessed that situation that people are asking the questions before sharing their PAN card, Aadhaar card and all that stuff. Just 10 days back, government released one circular that we should avoid circulating the Xerox copies of your Aadhaar. That circular was from UIDI and later government took back for some modification and all. But all these activities are informing us that we should be focused on our privacy. We should be particular about our privacy. No one should take us granted around our private data. And then the one important stuff, and it is not the ambiguous word, 2 different words, but very important, especially in the industry, security versus usability. See, 100% security we can achieve if you stop everything. Then 100% security is achieved. Again, I will rather giving you the example of some industry or the banking domain, I would again try to correlate you with your university campus. How we can make our campus 100% secure? Just you lock everything, all the rooms, all the doors, main gates, and don't allow anyone to get inside the university campus. Now your campus will be 100% secure. But will it serve the purpose? No. The working functionality of the university will stop. So the other angle becomes important, that is usability. We have to be smart enough to apply the security in a way so that the compute, the campus or whatever you are securing should be available decently enough to its consumer without any disruption. Your security should not, the controls which you are putting for the security should not be create hindrance towards the user. If you put so many checks and balance that now user is getting difficult to get inside the campus, then that security will not solve the purpose. The purpose, or now if I relate it to the cyber industry or the industry, banking industry, or even any other industry where the CISO role becomes important. When I say Chief Information Security Officer, CISO can mandate to implement n number of controls. But the job of the smart CISO is whatever controls he is recommending, those controls should not create the business hindrances. Ultimate aim for any organization is to do the business. So our security controls should not create the hindrance, should not be showstopper for any business. And this is the demand. Otherwise, I will just give you one very live example that 2-3 years back, what was happening that CISOs were applying the security in the conservative way with the traditional technology. And nowadays, when everyone is moving towards the digital transformation and everything, it becomes very difficult how to sustain business with so 50 years old security controls and security controls approaches. So nowadays, in technology and the business pressures forced the CISOs in last 4-5 years that whatever controls you are recommending, those controls should run along with the business. Those controls should not stop the business. Now, if I believe most of you would be using the internet banking, the mobile banking and all that stuff. Now, a lot of security controls are implemented, embedded into your applications, but you might not have any visibility about those because those controls are being implemented so smartly that as a user, you don't have any problem from those controls. You don't have any issue with those controls. Yes, certain things are there where sometimes we get frustrated, but yes, those you are creating some login on some web portal and it is asking to put the captcha. So first thing comes into our mind that why captcha is needed. Just I want to read the 4 alphabets and I need to put into the blank space. Why this captcha is there? So yes, captcha is important because it gives you the security against brute force attacks. So apart from captcha, we have been using captcha for last 15-20 years. Now what may be the alternate? So industry has been forced by the business and the users demand that boss, now rather putting the manual captcha, what other smart controls you can offer in your applications. If you continue with those old technologies, then sorry, your customer will move to someone else. They will not continue with you. Now, if I talk about what all important cyber threats available in the market. So available or the mostly common cyber threats to the market, one of them is the ransomware. Now again, since it is the virtual conference and we are not sitting in front of each other, so otherwise it is, so in virtual mode, good thing is that we all are connected, sitting different places in India, but the interaction which happens with the audience, that we need to compromise in virtual conference anyway. So now if just you think where you last heard the ransomware, any ransomware attack, if you recall in your mind, any ransomware attack, you were coming to your mind, okay, someone was telling. So if I take a name called WannaCry, and I believe if the students of first year, second year, third year would be there in college in 2017, but the students who are more keen towards some technology magazines and they are surfing the technology journals, or they have some idea what is happening in globally. So WannaCry was the biggest attack in last couple of years globally, and around not late night, I would say 9:30 it started globally, and first it made down the UK hospital industry, and then slowly it started floating against all the countries. Yes, we woke up in India. When I say we, then our government wake up after 24 hours, but industry was on its role to prevent, because if we don't prevent such things, you cannot stop any attack. But the important thing is how fast you control that attack, because attackers are not in your control. You should be smart enough, let attackers do their job. Let them spread the ransomware, but how quickly you can react and contain that threat, what has been spreaded. So that was the biggest attack, and after that also certain attacks have been observed in industry. What ransomware does, its name implies ransom. So simply they lock your computers, they encrypt your data and ask for the ransom. And there is no guarantee if you pay them the $1 million, after getting that money, whether they will give you the decryption keys or not. So it is one kind of attack which also forced the industry to think about backups differently. A few years back, industry was confident that we are having the backup copies. So whatever happens with our data, we should not worry because we have the backup copies. Now, such kind of volumetric attacks made us learn that, boss, if your backup copy is also encrypted, then what will you do? So when you are implementing any backup solution, then you should think differently, so that if any ransomware kind of attack happens, then your backup copy should be safeguarded from all such attacks. So again, ransomware is one widely floated attack across the globe. Most of the industries have faced it. Some of the industries could contain it. Some of the industries could not contain it and lost their data. Now, and again, guys, especially for the students, whatever I am here presenting, I am presenting very basic things. These are very basic stuff of the cyber security, where with very small precautions, you can safeguard your systems, mobile and everything. Now, the other thing is the phishing. What happens in the phishing? someone sent you the email that boss, you have won lottery of 1 crore and you just provide your name, date of birth and so on. We will just credit the amount into your account, and we simply give whatever they want. They simply give you the form, Google Forms, and you fill all the details. After 5 minutes, you get the SMS that rather crediting your account has been debited. Then we suddenly get alarm, what has happened? Oh, so it seems fishy. So again, phishing is very popular trend into the cyber market, and none of the industry has been left so far which didn't face the phishing kind of attacks. And in phishing, rather putting the technical controls, the main what we can do best, what we can do is we can make our students, we can make our staff more smart and aware about the phishing, so that if they are getting any SMS, any email or any such thing, after just seeing that email or SMS, they should get, okay, this is a phishing suspicious email, we should not respond on such SMSs and emails. So just we should be smart enough. In the later slide I will come that what all the key parameters which you can just see and check whether it is a phishing email or the actual genuine email. Then the public Wi-Fi. So I believe most of you would aware, and if by chance I'm not aware, if your university is offering the free Wi-Fi in the campus, then most of us will be very keen in the morning. Yeah, that particular movie, that particular video, we had to download, but let's do it tomorrow. We'll get the free Wi-Fi in the campus or hotels or airports, wherever the public faces are there. We are very habitual surfing the internet in the public Wi-Fi. My suggestion would be that you should avoid using the public Wi-Fi as far as possible. And if it is at most necessary to do something over internet, over public Wi-Fi, then just try that at least you are using a public Wi-Fi which should have the password. Minimum security control is the password. If any password Wi-Fi is there where no password has been asked, please don't use such Wi-Fi, because what happens, whatever data you are submitting from your laptop, your username, password, your pictures or papers, whatever, anything can sitting in the part of Word, and he will be sniffing your traffic because your network is not secure. So that is again very common threat to us, where just putting a bit precaution, we can get rid of from becoming the victim of the public Wi-Fi related issues. Few other things are denial of service, brute force, as I mentioned. So CAPTCHA is very important stuff to avoid the brute force, to become the victim of brute force. What happens? People try, once I know your username, then what I need to do, I need to run a script to check your password. I will try 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs passwords in 5-minute time. And if your password is simple, then I will just get logged into a system. So to avoid that, I am not running any script with the robot, or that CAPTCHA is there. And nowadays, if you guys would have used the Google CAPTCHA and all, very sophisticated and very tough CAPTCHA implementations are there. And man in middle, as I mentioned, public Wi-Fi, if your protocols are not secure, then over internet, your data can be compromised, whatever you are using.
Excuse me, Mr. Avasti, your time is getting over. Please.
So I will try to complete in next 5-10 minutes, because I was told around 30 minutes. So anyway, I will try to wrap. So these are the snapshots of certain attacks, and just important thing which I would like to convey, that none of these attacks were made with very complicated or technically smart attacks. These attacks, if you just leave the Cosmos Bank malware attack and WannaCry, remaining all attacks were attacks which were due to the exploitation of either your username, password, especially the Zomato one. 17 million people were affected, and you would be surprised to know the simple thing that one person who was working for the Zomato, he kept his credentials into the public library, and someone get those credentials, and once that attacker log in with those credentials, he get the record of 17 million customers of Zomato. So it is not any rocket technology, any rocket science. It is simple. Your username, password is compromised. So here, what I'm trying to convey, that normally 80% cyber attacks doesn't pertain due to very sophisticated attacks, Reiki and all that stuff, these attacks happen with our basic mistakes of username, password compromise, your Wi-Fi, home Wi-Fi getting compromised, so on, so forth. And just I will put 2 minutes on this slide. So now it is Industry 4.0, where now we are moving towards the complete automation with the help of AI and ML, and we are implementing the automation in big way. All industries are forced to adopt the automation. Now automation is not your choice, it is compulsion to adopt. So now again, cyber security is very important stuff. If you don't adopt the automation with security, then results will be surprising for you and would be disruptive in nature. Most probably chances are so. So in the era of adopting Industry 4.0, we should be very careful about the cyber security controls are in place. When we are adopting the automation, we are getting use the AI, ML and other that stuff. Here, this again, one simple example that how your password should be look like to avoid any compromise. And if among the audience, if I say 147 people are there, if any of you feels that there are chances that my credentials would never been hacked by anyone, so just there is an URL called https://haveibeenpawned.com. Just you go there, put your email ID, your Facebook ID or whatever, it will tell you how and when your credentials were compromised. You may try it offline after this conference. Now again, the phishing tips. So if you get any SMS or the phishings, normally what happens, you will feel the grammatical mistakes in the email. You will feel the different kind of fonts. You will get there something fishy in the language. Like if you see the third screenshot, rather www.royalbank.com, it is www.1.royalbank.com. So just if you put a bit effort, you get the email, SMS, you just read it carefully for 30 seconds. 99% chances are there you would be able to differentiate it from the malicious email or genuine email. So these are few examples. Again, when you are doing any online shopping, nowadays Amazon, Flipkart kind of word. So just ensure whenever you are doing any digital payments, you are putting your card information, your payment information on the verified page only. The payment gateways which are certified, their security is certified by the third-party organizations like MasterCard Secure, Verified Visa, American Express, so on and so forth. So just you have to be ensured that you are not putting your payment kind of critical information into some malicious website. You should be, convinced yourself first, okay, this page is safe enough, then only you should put your credentials. Then again, as I mentioned in the Industry 4.0, we are in big way adopting the IoT, automation. Our phrase, home appliances, everything should work with the mobile. Now we are running with the cars where you can start your car, you can start the air condition of the car, shut down the air condition, you can control appliances. So again, bit difficult for the industry because here the appliances are from different OEMs. So to create the synergy among different OEMs becomes sometimes difficult, but yes, this is the demand and we have to find the solutions and implement the right solutions for adopting the IoT culture and Industry 4.0 transformation if we are looking towards. These are few URLs I have shared. Abhinandan or Reena might share later these URLs to you guys. If any of the students are keen to learn certain security concepts, so these URLs provide you the free of cost trainings, learning courses where you can log in, create your credentials, just attend those courses, 2-hour courses, 4-hour courses. You will get the basics because see, whatever you are learning in your university, no can match that. But if you just do a 10% extra effort, 30 minutes in a day on these AI, ML, security, cyber security, cloud, and once you put such things into a resume, then and you get the campus opportunity to face, then believe me, your 50% interview will get through. As you mentioned that I have idea about Azure, or I have idea about AWS, or sir, I have done the Cisco training on the cyber security. Your 50% you are through in your interview. So just whatever you are learning, that is fundamental on which you will make your career, that will work as a foundation. But on that foundation, if you just put the cherry on the cake, it will really help you in cracking the interviews. Yeah, so that's all. Any questions? I'm happy to answer if time permits.
Thank you, Mr. Avasti. And maybe we can take the questions at the end of the session. Madam Reena, can you call the next person?
Thank you, sir, for your words of awareness on cybersecurity and various security threats to a very intellectual session. Our participants are most valuable to us. If you have any questions related to the subject line, then you can post your query in the chat box. We will cover your question at the end of the session. Technology is one of the key drivers of female economic empowerment. With this quote, I would like to introduce our third speaker of the day, a very beautiful, talented, and dynamic personality, Ms. Monica Gagnani. Ms. Monica Gagnani is an information technology professional with more than 18 plus years of experience in Linux and open source technologies. Also, an open source enthusiast and expert in advocating the requirements of automation and containerization technologies on hybrid cloud environments to enterprise customers in achieving better ROI and business demands. In previous role as Associate Manager Technical Training, she was responsible for designing and delivering custom and tailored technology training and workshops to Red Hat's strategic customers across APAC. Currently, ma'am is associated with Technical Account Manager role and work directly with software maintenance engineers, partner management, sales, production, support, and many other internal departments and teams. It's an honor for us to have you as a distinguished speaker of the day, ma'am. I now request Ms. Monica Gagnani, ma'am, to enlighten us with the session on DevOps. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tina. Just to confirm, hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you, Guru Prasad sir, for hosting this session at 12:30, and it was very informative, and I'm very motivated with your session. Keeping in mind that we are running short of time, I would like to start off with my session and wish to share my screen. I'll quickly share my screen, and please confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
All right. My topic for today, elevates to the cloud. As we all know, we have been listening and hearing about containers and Kubernetes. Over past 2 years during this pandemic, we have heard about these buzzwords: digital transformation, application deployment, open source, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. Rather, since today morning, I have been listening to all these sessions by all our dignitaries, by all our speakers, and hear these terms: cloud and containers and DevOps and Kubernetes. So this is business innovation that is all around us. And we realized over the pandemic, and we should feel blessed that yes, we have this digital technology with us, because of which we all survived so well. Online ordering of food, watching the OTT programs, and everything being digitalized. I am so dependent, as sir rightly said, so dependent on my mobile phone, and we all are so we have configured our devices as an easy to use way. So this is the business innovation, the IT innovation across the entire globe that we have. With this, keeping this factor in mind, we all understand and we all would wish to create value on the ability to deliver applications faster. Let me elaborate with a very small example, my dear friends. During this pandemic, during the first 4 months of the initial pandemic that we all faced, I used to receive calls from my friends and relatives. Why don't you install this app? Why don't you install that app? You get a better discount on this app. You get better offers on the other app. And that's where I realized the go-to-market strategy of these applications that is there. It became so easy for these applications. I mean, it became so easy for us to use these applications, those user-friendly applications. I mean, you just log in and you get your work done sitting at the comfort of your home. So that's where we talk about cloud native applications. We talk about artificial intelligence. We talk about machine learning, the analytics, the Internet of Things, the innovation culture. Let me give you a small example of analytics for that matter. yesterday I received an email from Google. We all keep receiving emails from Google, and I received an email that over last month you have traveled to these places and you have traveled these many kilometers in these locations. So that's where I was able to analyze that yes, this is how the I wouldn't have done the calculations myself, but this is the analytics that has been automatically done by these applications. And that's where we talk about containers, we talk about Kubernetes, we talk about hybrid cloud. These are the key ingredients. We have we have been having our speakers just now who have been talking about containers, who have been talking about Kubernetes, who have been talking about security. And really, I really appreciate the knowledge that they have shared with all of us. Here we talk about Red Hat OpenShift. This is the platform that helps us deliver container-based applications. So today I want to work on any application. I just download that application and I start working on that application at my comfort. But before we get into the details of containers and Kubernetes and DevOps, let me talk a bit on open source software, my dear friends. This is one of the best, one of the widely appreciated slides across the globe. This is the slide that helps us compare our open source project with enterprise projects. Now, what do I mean by open source projects? I'm not sure, but many of us feel that open source means free. Basically, open source means meeting of free minds, sharing of free ideas. You come up with ideas, your ideas are worked upon, your ideas are incorporated. And once it is incorporated and experimented and tested, it reaches the enterprise market. And that's where Red Hat has pioneered itself. Red Hat is a pioneer in ensuring that it gets the open source projects to the enterprise world. What is so great about this enterprise world? Well, you get the exact required support on time. That is the beauty of our enterprise applications that given by Red Hat. So here, if you see on this slide, we have got our open source projects, we have got equivalent Red Hat products. So there we talk about Fedora. Equivalent to Fedora operating system is Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system. I have been using open source operating systems since the time I joined Red Hat in 2004. I would not have seen any other commercial, I wouldn't have worked on any commercial operating system. And for that matter, if my family asks me, or if my son tells me that in Windows, I have this problem, I feel it, I feel I'm working on a different environment, because I have been working on open source, and that too on Fedora operating system, ensuring as and how the Fedora releases its software, I download it and I work on it. Equivalent to Fedora is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Similarly, we have got our applications, we have got our products that are open source, and Red Hat ensures that those open source products are worked upon and they are enterprise and reach to the corporate customers ASAP. There we have a statement. Red Hat is doing for containers and cloud what Red Hat did for Linux 15 years ago. When I joined in 2004, and I used to say that I'm training people on Linux operating system, people used to ask, what is Linux? What is so great about Linux? And I used to say that these are server based, these are having a lot of security, these are having a lot of ways to configure servers in an easy way. People were not aware. But today Linux is not new anymore. Today we talk about containers, and we talk about Kubernetes, and we talk about OpenShift platform, and that's where Red Hat is doing its best. We go ahead. Now, I would not wish to read this slide and get you into the statistics of what it is, but just trying to make you get into more insights that we have got our organizations that are using private clouds. We have got 91% of the organizations that are using public clouds, and one private and one public cloud being used widely, and that is 69%. There we see that our technology has grown. There was a time when I used to ask my IT support people that why don't you install this software for me on this box, and why don't I start developing or working on and creating an application. Today, I just don't have to get that. I just ask for a cloud VM. I just ask for an instance. I get an instance where I'm able to work on and get my work done. I develop an application and I give it ahead, and that application can be deployed in the open source world and then to the enterprise world. Let me go ahead and elaborate a bit on containers, Kubernetes, and Red Hat OpenShift container platform. We have got this operating system Red Hat. We have got a couple of open source projects, and just to name a few, Kubernetes, Istio, Open Container Initiative, KubeWord. We have these open source projects which are combined, which have been worked upon, and there we have an enterprise product, an enterprise software, and that is Red Hat OpenShift container platform. Trust me, my dear friends, this platform, this particular software is being widely adapted. I would not say used, but it is being widely adapted by most of the major leading industries, may it be across the airlines industry, the health sector, the security industry, the telco industry. This product is being widely used. So Red Hat has 15 years of experience making open source technologies ready for enterprise. And there you see Trust Red Hat. So basically it is tried, tested, and then trusted. So we have 3 T's: tried, tested, trusted with regards to our products. Now, let me give you this particular screen. I know many of us would be excited or eager to know more on this, and definitely I would share more. But then let us understand what this product is all about. So we have these open source projects, one of them being Kubernetes. Now, let me give you a one-liner for Kubernetes and one-liner for cloud. When we talk about cloud computing, my dear friends, cloud computing is the buzzword, is what we discussed. But what is cloud for me? A one-liner. Cloud computing for me is using the resources over the network, is using somebody else's computer over the network. I repeat, when I talk about resources, I talk about processor, disk, network, or the entire operating system over the network. One of the best examples would be Google Docs. I use Google Docs, I use Google Sheets, I use Google Drive for storage. That is not using my storage, but over the network, over the internet, I get this storage. So that is what is cloud computing. That is what is cloud technology. I'm sure this would have made your foundation very clear. I go ahead with Kubernetes. What do we mean by Kubernetes? Kubernetes is an orchestration technology. It helps us to orchestrate the resources, where we talk about the resources communicating with each other in a very easy and in a very very effective way. So it helps us orchestrate and ensures that our applications follow the go-to-market strategy in a comfortable way. Here you see that Kubernetes to OpenShift. What is this Kubernetes to OpenShift? It precisely means open source to enterprise product. We go ahead. I remember our speaker had shared the information on containers and virtualization. In case you people remember, one of the best slides that I found, very informative session where we were elaborated on what is virtualization and why containers, what is the advantage of using containers. And I have got a slide further to that where you have got, so there is a statement, containers is Linux. You have got your platform, your operating system, Linux, on which you have got your orchestration method, that is Kubernetes, on which you have got your containers, which have the appropriate applications that run in containers. These containers are running on Linux. So if you see this illustration that is given in front of you, it gives you a very clear insight of what we mean by containers, what we mean by where on which level does Kubernetes come in, on which level does our containers come in, and where our apps are. If you are able to elaborate, if you're able to get through this particular illustration, you come to know that we have got individual resources allocated to individual applications. We do not have resource crunch, or we do not have a resource fight. Every application works in their own specific namespace, and they have got their own security applied. And one of the security feature that I talk about over here is SE Linux. So this is where we talk about our containers and our Kubernetes. Red Hat OpenShift container platform widely being used by our enterprise market that you see. It boosts the server efficiency, reduces the cost, gives us, has experience, 74% have experienced more consistency across environments with the help of Red Hat OpenShift container platform. As I said, widely adapted technology. Now we come to you, to all our students. Now, my dear students, if you see, I just would like to put in a minute. I just would like to take in 1 minute from your time, from the entire session. I have been an engineer by education. When my college told me to go ahead with advanced courses, during those time, I had C, C++, Visual Basic, and Oracle. I said, I am an engineer. I am going to be an engineer. And once I become an engineer, I would have a red carpet and the industry would come and pick me up. No, my dear friends, that was not the case. Once I became an engineer and I got my the certificate, and I showed my dad, it was a proud moment. But then my dad said, what next? You're not going to sit at home. And then I had to go to this industry, to the real-time industry. And that's where I realized that besides my entire education, if I would have additional skills with me, which my professors and my lecturers and my college people had advised me, I would have been in a better situation. And that's where I had to undergo additional 6 months of training. So as you see, the cloud skills gap has become a cloud skills crisis. Organizations want to pick up people who are cloud skilled, who are well aware and prepared to work on cloud technology, who are prepared to work on different products that are in demand, that are being adapted by companies today. There you see, training existing talent is a priority. And I had to put in additional 6 months. I being an example, I thank the college staff for giving me this opportunity where I am able to share my inputs. And that's where we have this Red Hat Academy, my dear friends. So Red Hat Academy's OpenShift container platform curriculum would help you meet the industry demand. You come out of your college environment. You know, our colleges, our academies, our professors, lecturers are very protective about us. They want us as students to come up in the industry, face the industry, be industry ready. And that's where Red Hat Academy has come up with the appropriate curriculum. Let me share that information with you. So if you see the Red Hat Academy courses, we ensure that we have the courses where you can go to the industry, probably associate yourself as a web developer or as a cyber security engineer, network engineer, server configuration engineer, business intelligence analyst, security management specialist, etc. And that's where I talk about two courses. One is DO 101, which forms your foundation on OpenShift, helps us to learn how to deploy applications, how to ensure that we are able to develop and build and deploy applications on containers. Not only this, my dear friends, we have got one of the best courses. I got myself, I ensured that I am certified on this. It is Containers, Kubernetes, and Red Hat OpenShift. This is a course which gives me the foundation on understanding what is containers, because I am very new to containers. I was dedicated working on the operating system. But to meet the market demand, I ensured I certify myself on this course. I understood about containers, Kubernetes, and Red Hat OpenShift as a product by doing this course, DO 180 course. And it was very informative, gave me a lot of knowledge. And it helps us to perform basic tasks like how to create containerized services on using Podman, container, how do you work with container images? How do you talk about getting the appropriate security applied on containers? So these are the two courses over here that we have. Now, my dear friends, we all know that we all attend our classes during our engineering weeks. But post this, we have an exam associated with this. Why do we have an exam? To prove that we have gained the correct knowledge and we have the appropriate knowledge. Same way over here, we ensure that we have the certification exam, which helps us prove to the industry that yes, we have the appropriate knowledge. Our certifications are hands-on certifications. Those are not the certifications where we have just got a by heart in, but we have to perform the exercises, demonstrate and showcase our skills within the stipulated time period. And that's where we have got our certification EX180, which is a 2 hours certification exam. You get yourself certified, you raise the bar for yourself. You know the industry people, when they come to your college, you are certified and you are given more preference. Not only this, Red Hat Academy also ensures that the instructors are given a free hand to work on, and they are ready to prepare their students. So we ensure that the instructors, the academy, the people who deliver these courses are prepared very well. So here we talk about bridging the gap between education and industry. Once you get yourself certified, you have your degree, you have got industries that approach your colleges, and you are able to fulfill the required demands and get in the jobs of your choice. So this is about Red Hat Academy that I have. With this small short presentation, I would like to complete off, and a big thank you to all of you for giving me this opportunity to give my presentation, and also a big thank you to the entire college staff and to all the dignitaries of this college. Thank you so much. If we have any questions, please do let me know.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking a very informative session on cloud computing, Red Hat certification courses, DevOps, and Kubernetes. Now moving towards questionnaire session. We'll try to cover as many queries related to the subject line, but due to time constraint, if we are not able to take your query, then we will mail your queries to our distinguished speakers. So you may write your queries in the chat box.
Rina, there are no queries right now in the chat box. So maybe we can invite Dr. Namit Gupta for the concluding remarks.
Okay, sir. Now I request Dr. Namit Gupta, sir, Professor of Electronics and Communication Engineering and Director of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Technology and Science, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, for summing up the first plenary session of second international conference on sustainable computing for multidisciplinary realities, organized by Sri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya in association with ICT Academy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rina. It was a wonderful plenary session today. Wonderful start with a appropriate note by today's chairperson, Dr. K.N. Guruprasad. I would say that we have three speakers. First one was Anindya Ghosh from IBM. A wonderful tagline he began with: nature has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's want. So that was a wonderful tagline. He explained about 3 ESG principles, that is environmental, social, and governance. He also talked about the responsible computing and green computing, green IT. He emphasized on holistic life cycle management approach and discussed about green computing initiatives which can be taken up to reduce the carbon footprints. He enlightened us that although with more use of cloud usage, 80% reduction in CO2 emission can be achieved, but at the same time, it is very much important for all of us who are using the mobile and the computer systems to become more and more disciplined while using the computer hardware and software. More efficient use of resources such as hardware, software, and greater utilization of servers is the key for sustainable computing. He emphasized on how virtualization can help in sustainable computing. Second speaker for today's session was Mr. Shubham Awasthi from Axis Bank. He talked about cyber security in a wonderful and simplified manner. He shared his ideas about important threats and challenges related to cyber security issues. He explained about data security and even computing security. He discussed about the cyber security challenges which are relevant to Industry 4.0. We all know that Industry 4.0 is a buzzword nowadays, which everybody is talking. Now, how, why, and what to secure? That was a wonderful question raised by him, which was answered by him also in quite a detail. So he detailed us about various aspects of security versus safety, security versus privacy, and security versus usability. He also talked about different cyber threats like ransomware, phishing, public Wi-Fi, and he gave certain cyber tips to all the listeners and attendees today that how we can have a strong authentication, how to tackle the phishing attacks, how to secure our digital transactions, and how to use securely the IoT devices. So these were the key points by Mr. Shubham Awasthi. Our third speaker today, Ms. Monica Gangnani from Red Hat India Private Limited. She emphasized with wonderful session by her, basically more focused towards how to make our students, the students passing out from the engineering stream, how to make them more industry ready. Business innovation, she emphasized on that business innovation is all around, and she detailed about enterprise open source softwares, which is powering digital transformation and business innovation. She explained about the different aspects of Red Hat initiatives in converting Linux, container, and cloud technologies into enterprise software. She gave a brief technical detail about OpenShift container platforms and other technologies supported Academy. And as I said earlier, the advantages which a student can get once they do certain programs or the courses from the Red Hat Academy. So all in all, a wonderful session with three wonderful speakers and very up of the conference, that is sustainable computing. So thank you very much from my side. Over to you, Reena.
Thank you, sir. Breakthrough innovations occurs when we break down boundaries and encourage disciplines to learn from each other. Sustainable computing is a rapidly expanding research area spanning the field of computer science and engineering, electrical engineering, as well as all other disciplines. With this, we came to the end of first plenary session of Avdharan 2022. Now, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our renowned speakers, Mr. Anand Ghosh, Director and Associate Partner, Data Science, AI and Data Platform Services, IBM, Mr. Shubham Awasthi, Deputy Vice President, Information System and Security, Axis Bank, and Ms. Monica Gangnani, Technical Account Manager, Red Hat India Private Limited. Our session chairpersons, Dr. K. N. Guruprasadji, Dr. Namit Gupta sir, Chairperson Avdharan 2022, Dr. Anand Rajawat sir, Convener, Dr. Jigyasu Dubey sir, Co-Convener, Dr. Abhishek Singh Rathore sir and Vijay Prakash sir, all the faculties, supporting staffs, and participants. Thank you all. The first technical session of Avdharan 2022 will start at 2:30 p.m. I request everyone present here to join the session. I invite Mr. Shubham Kochari sir to take over the next session. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Reena. Thank you.
Thank you, Anik. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Guru Prasad ji. Thank you, Gupta ji.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, Guru Prasad sir. Thank you, Namit sir.
Thank you.
Bye, Reena.
Bye, ma'am.